So today I want to talk about one of my absolute favorite Fatui harbingers, Sandrone, also known as the Marionette. And if you've been following leaks and official teasers recently, you'll know why this is such a big moment. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description. For the longest time, leakers told us she wasn't going to be playable. She wasn't on any of the confirmed harbinger list that included names like Capitano, Dottore, or Columbina. And honestly, that was disappointing because Sandrone has always stood out in the lore, and a lot of fans, myself included, were already super invested in her. But then things started shifting. First, we saw her in the A Winter Nights Lazo trailer standing alongside her giant robot, which immediately made everyone speculate about puppets, mechanics, and maybe even a playable kit centered around her machine. Then came the Fontaine arc, and even though she didn't appear there, hints about her character kept building. We learned from Tartaglia's lines that she has this unpleasant personality, always glaring at him, which some fans even speculated might be jealousy, because he's the harbinger most connected to the traveler. At Signora's funeral, she mocked her fellow harbingers instead of paying her respects, which really nailed home her cold and obsessive side. And just when people started to lose hope about her ever being playable, Hoyoverse themselves put her right back in the spotlight. In the version 6.0 Nod Cry livestream poster, Sandrone is literally front and center with the biggest frame out of all the characters. That's not the kind of thing Hoyoverse does casually. If you followed their marketing patterns, they usually reserve that spotlight for characters they want to push as main narrative players, and often future playables. Just think back to Arlecchino. She was featured heavily in Fontaine's story art long before release, and at the time, leakers also said she wasn't playable. And yet, she not only became playable, she turned into one of the biggest character launches in Genshin history. Now we've got this brand new update that's completely changed the conversation. Multiple leak channels, Watson leaks, Plum Team leaks, HXG, Seal leaks, Team Lunar Mew, all reposted info that traces back to Duma leaks, claiming Sandrone will be playable in version 6.7. And when you see multiple independent sources pushing the same message almost simultaneously, that usually means it's coming from somewhere credible. Obviously, we need to keep the usual disclaimer. Nothing is officially confirmed until Hoyoverse says so, and leaks have been wrong before. But this kind of coordinated repost doesn't usually happen unless the info is strong. And while we're on the subject of version 6.7, we can't ignore Alice. For a long time, leaks pointed to Alice, yes, that Alice, Klee's mother and one of the Hexenzirkel witches, as the headline character for June 7th. She's been one of the most mysterious figures in Genshin since day one, always talked about but never actually shown in-game. So now the interesting twist is this: if Sandrone really is playable in 6.7, does that mean Hoyoverse is planning to release both Alice and Sandrone in the same patch? Normally, major Archon Quest characters or highly anticipated lore figures are spaced out so each gets their moment. But it wouldn't be completely out of the question to have them share a patch. We've had double debuts before. Remember when Ayaka and Yoimiya came right after each other? Or when Arlecchino launched alongside reruns of other heavy hitters? The leakers who first mentioned Alice in 6.7 haven't been invalidated. So it's possible we're looking at a situation where Alice takes one half of the patch and Sandrone takes the other. That would make 6.7 one of the most stacked patches in Genshin's history, delivering not just a long-awaited harbinger, but also one of the most important lore figures in the entire game. Of course, until Hoyoverse officially confirms it, we have to take this as speculation. It could be that Alice gets pushed to 6.8, or that Sandrone is introduced in the story but not actually released on a banner until later. But if both of them really do drop in the same version, that's going to be an insane moment for the player base, a double hit of hype that combines Harbinger fans with longtime Klee and Mondstadt lore fans. So what could this mean for Sandrone's actual kit? Let's start with what we know from lore. She's obsessed with puppets and mechanics. She's rumored to have created Catherine, the NPC we see at every Adventurer's Guild, which would explain those strange rebooting lines Catherine occasionally says. If she really is behind that, it would make sense for her abilities to revolve around controlling mechanical constructs. And then there's her robot, the huge one she appeared with in her trailer. It's impossible to ignore that when thinking about her combat style. It feels very likely that her kit will involve some kind of summon or puppet companion. Maybe it's permanent, maybe it's temporary, but I can easily imagine her robot fighting alongside her like Fischl's Oz, but on a much grander scale. Some people have speculated she might be able to overclock her creation, which could translate to mechanics where she sacrifices her own HP or even allies' durability to empower the robot's damage output. That would tie in perfectly with her yandere personality, where even those she cares about aren't safe from becoming puppets. Imagine a burst that transforms her puppet into an overdrive mode, dealing massive area of effect damage while draining her health. That would really make her feel dangerous and obsessive, just like her lore describes. As for her element, that's still a mystery. Electro feels like the most natural choice, since it's tied to machinery, automation, and puppetry. But Geo could also make sense, since it's the element of constructs and durability. Less likely, but still possible, would be a Nemo, using wind as puppet strings. Until we get more concrete leaks, it's just speculation. But given Hoyoverse's history of making Harbingers stand out mechanically, I expect something very unique. Remember how Childa has his stance switching, Wanderer has flight, and Arlecchino introduced the Bond of Life mechanic? Sandrone is probably going to get something just as defining. Now, I want to point out how fascinating it is that her playability timeline has flipped so suddenly. Early on, the word was, no, she's not on the playable list. And now, if these new 6.7 leaks are accurate, she'll not only be playable but also fairly soon, around the middle of 2026. It makes you wonder if Hoyoverse listens to fan demand more than they admit. Arlecchino's turnaround set a precedent, and Sandrone might be the next example. It wouldn't be surprising if Hoyoverse saw how popular she was among fans and decided she deserved the spotlight after all. And honestly, from a personal perspective, I couldn't be happier. Sandrone has always been my favorite Harbinger. There's just something about her design, her obsession with puppets, and her twisted personality that makes her incredibly compelling. The idea of actually getting to play as her, with a kit that potentially lets you control a giant robot companion, is the kind of thing that makes me really excited for the future of Genshin. So, what do you guys think? Do you believe the new leaks about Sandrone's 6.7 release, or do you think this could still be a red herring? What kind of kit would you like to see if she really does become playable? A true puppet master with her robot on the field, or something even more experimental? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments because I'm really curious how the community is feeling about this one. That's all for this update on Sandrone. If you enjoyed this discussion and you want to keep up with more news, leaks, and breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future updates. Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.